Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people's story. 3 years ago, my wife and I decided to leave the city behind and buy a small farm about 20 miles outside town. We both grew up in rural areas and wanted to get back to our roots, grow our own food, and live a simpler life. After months of searching, we found the perfect 15-acre property with a cozy farmhouse, a decent barn, and plenty of room for gardens and animals. When we bought the place, the surrounding area was mostly other small farms, but about a year ago, a developer bought the old Williams property next to ours and started building what they called luxury country estates. Basically, it was a subdivision for wealthy city folks who wanted to experience country living without actually experiencing it. You know the type. They want the views but not the smells, the quiet but not the farm noises, the pastoral setting but not the actual farming. The houses went up fast, and before we knew it, our peaceful little corner of the county had a dozen new mini-mansions scattered around, each on plots of about 2 acres. When the first residents started moving in, we tried to be friendly, bringing welcome baskets with eggs from our chickens and vegetables from our garden. Most of them were pleasant enough, if a bit snooty. Then Deborah moved in. Deborah's house was the one closest to our property line, about 300 yards from our barn and animal pens. She was in her late 50s, drove a shiny white Lexus SUV, and almost always wore designer workout clothes, despite never seeming to actually work out. From day one, she made it clear that she wasn't happy about living next to a real farm. My first interaction with her set the tone for everything that followed. I was working in our front garden when she marched up our driveway, designer sunglasses perched on her head. "Excuse me," she said without introducing herself. "Are those chickens I hear?" I straightened up from where I was planting tomatoes and wiped my hands on my jeans. "Yes, we've got about 20 hens and 2 roosters. They provide all our eggs, plus extras we sell at the farmer's market." Her face scrunched up like she'd smelled something bad. "Well, the crowing is very disturbing. I moved out here for peace and quiet." I tried to be patient. The roosters mainly crow in the early morning, which is pretty standard for country living. They should quiet down for most of the day. "I'm an extremely light sleeper and I need my rest. You'll need to get rid of them." I blinked, taken aback by her entitlement. "I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. The roosters are part of our small farm operation." "We'll see about that," she said ominously before turning on her heel and marching back down the driveway. That was just the beginning. Over the next few months, Deborah complained about everything. The occasional tractor noise, the smell when we fertilized our fields with manure, the delivery trucks that brought feed once a month. She even called the county to report us for having unsightly bales of hay visible from the road. Each time I patiently explained that this was a working farm, and we were well within our rights according to county ordinances. Thankfully, our county has strong right-to-farm laws protecting agricultural operations from nuisance complaints by neighbors, especially those who moved in after the farm was established. But things really escalated when we decided to add pigs to our little farm about 6 months ago. We started with just 3 piglets, 2 females and 1 male that we planned to breed. We named them Petunia, Penny, and Percy. They were Gloucestershire Old Spots, a heritage breed known for being good-natured and excellent foragers. We built them a spacious pen with a sturdy shelter, plenty of room to root around, and a wallow for hot days. The pigs were about as far from Deborah's property as possible, situated behind our barn on the opposite side from her house. But apparently it wasn't far enough. The first complaint came 3 days after the pigs arrived. Deborah called, not bothering with pleasantries. "There's an absolutely disgusting smell coming from your property, and I demand you do something about it immediately." I was confused. The pig pen was clean, and 3 small piglets couldn't possibly create that much odor, especially at that distance. "I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what you're smelling. The pig pen is clean, and they're almost 500 yards from your house, with our barn in between. Don't play dumb with me. I know you've added pigs to your little petting zoo, and they stink to high heaven. My house guests commented on it yesterday, and I was mortified." I sighed. "I'll check the pen again, but I assure you we maintain our animal areas properly. See that you do, or I'll be forced to call the authorities." I did inspect the pen, and as I suspected, it was perfectly clean. The piglets were even too small to create much waste yet. I chalked it up to Deborah being Deborah and went about my business. A week later, she called again. "Now they're making noise all night. I haven't slept in days." "Deborah, the pigs are asleep at night, just like us." "Don't lie to me. I hear them squealing and carrying on at all hours." I was genuinely baffled. Our pigs were quiet except at feeding time, and they certainly weren't making noise at night. "Maybe you're hearing coyotes or some other wildlife." "I know what pigs sound like," she snapped before hanging up. The complaints continued, becoming more frequent and more bizarre. According to Deborah, our three small piglets were creating a cacophony that could rival a heavy metal concert. She started calling or coming over almost daily, each time more agitated than the last. My wife and I began to wonder if she was confusing our pigs with some other noise, or if she was simply making it all up as her latest attempt to harass us. We installed a trail camera near the pig pen that would activate with motion or sound, just to be sure our pigs weren't somehow having wild parties when we weren't looking. The footage showed nothing unusual, just three content piglets rooting around during the day and sleeping soundly at night. The situation came to a head one Saturday morning when we were having breakfast on our back porch. It was a beautiful spring day, the kind that reminds you why you chose this way of life. The birds were singing, a gentle breeze was blowing, and our farm animals were going about their peaceful business. Then we heard the sound of tires on gravel and saw a county sheriff's car pulling into our driveway, followed closely by Deborah's white Lexus. She had actually called the cops on our pigs. My wife and I exchanged a look of disbelief before getting up to meet the officer. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and the weathered look of someone who'd grown up in the country himself. His name tag read, Officer Miller. "Good morning, folks," he said politely. "I'm responding to a noise complaint." Before I could speak, Deborah burst out, "Finally! I've been calling about these horrible pigs for weeks. The noise is unbearable, day and night. It's affecting my health and my property values." Officer Miller turned to us with a questioning look. "We have 3 young piglets," I explained. "They're behind the barn in a pen about 500 yards from Miss Deborah's property. They're generally very quiet, except at feeding time." "The pigs are just part of the problem," Deborah cut in. "There are roosters crowing at all hours, tractors running in the middle of the night, and the smell. My guests can't even enjoy my patio." Officer Miller maintained his professional demeanor. "Ma'am, I understand your concerns. Would it be all right if I take a look at these animals?" "Of course," I said. "I'm happy to show you around." The 3 of us walked back toward the barn and pig pen, with Deborah trailing behind, still listing grievances. When we reached the pen, Officer Miller saw our 3 piglets, who were currently napping peacefully in a patch of sunshine. "These are the pigs causing all the commotion?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. "According to Miss Deborah, yes," I replied. He watched them for a moment. One of the piglets, Penny, opened her eyes, yawned, and then went right back to sleep. "They seem pretty dangerous," Officer Miller said with a straight face. "I might need backup." I couldn't help but smile, but Deborah was not amused. "They're not like this all the time. They wait until night and then they go crazy, squealing and grunting and running around." "Ma'am, pigs are typically diurnal animals, meaning they're active during the day and sleep at night, just like people," Officer Miller explained patiently. "Well, these ones aren't. They're making noise constantly. I recorded it on my phone." She thrust her phone at the officer, who politely listened to the recording. After a few seconds, he started to chuckle. "Ma'am, those are coyotes." "What? No, they're pigs. I've lived in this county my whole life, and I know coyote calls when I hear them. What you're hearing is a pack of coyotes, probably hunting in the woods behind your property." Deborah's face flushed red. "No, it's these pigs. I know it is." Officer Miller shook his head. "I'm sorry, but it's not. These little fellas couldn't make that kind of noise if they tried." As if on cue, Petunia let out a soft grunt and shifted in her sleep. It was possibly the least threatening sound imaginable. Officer Miller was trying hard not to laugh outright now. "Ma'am, I don't believe there's any violation occurring here. These animals are well cared for, properly housed, and not creating a disturbance. The property is zoned for agricultural use, and county ordinances protect existing farm operations." "So you're not going to do anything? What am I supposed to do about the noise?" "You might want to invest in some good earplugs or a white noise machine for the coyotes. As for the farm noises, that's part of living in a rural area. These folks were here first, and they have the right to operate their farm." Deborah looked like she might explode. "This is outrageous. I'll be calling your supervisor." "You're welcome to do that, ma'am," Officer Miller said calmly. "His family runs the dairy farm on County Road 8. I'm sure he'll be very sympathetic." With that, Deborah stormed off to her car and peeled out of our driveway, gravel flying. Once she was gone, Officer Miller finally let out the laugh he'd been holding in. "I'm sorry about that, folks. We get these calls sometimes when city people move out to the country." "No problem, officer. Thanks for handling it so well." "Between you and me," he said, lowering his voice conspiratorially, "my brother raises show pigs over in the next county. Those little guys of yours are downright adorable." He tipped his hat to us. "You folks have a good day now, and don't worry about the complaint. I'll make sure it's properly filed in our system." The way he said properly filed made me think he meant the circular file, and I appreciated that. We thought that might be the end of it, but we underestimated Deborah's determination. The very next day, we received an official-looking letter from a law firm representing the Countryside Estates Homeowners Association, which we didn't even know existed until that moment. The letter claimed our farm was in violation of HOA covenants regarding livestock, noise, and aesthetic standards. It demanded we remove all farm animals within 30 days or face legal action. My wife and I were momentarily concerned until we realized a crucial fact. Our property was not part of their HOA. We had owned our farm before the development was even built, and we had never signed any HOA agreement. We took the letter to our lawyer, who laughed out loud when he read it. "This is complete nonsense," he assured us. "They have zero authority over your property. I'll handle this." He sent a firmly worded response to the law firm, explaining the situation and warning them about pursuing frivolous legal threats. We didn't hear anything more from that particular angle, but Deborah wasn't done yet. Her next tactic was to start a petition among the other new residents, claiming our farm was decreasing property values and creating health hazards. She went door to door with her tales of noisy, smelly pigs and nighttime disruptions. Fortunately, not all of our new neighbors were as entitled as Deborah. In fact, many of them had specifically chosen homes in our area because they liked the rural character, including actual farms. Several of them had become regular customers for our eggs and produce, and a few had even brought their children over to see the animals. When Deborah approached one such neighbor, Martin, with her petition, he called us immediately afterward. "Just wanted to give you a heads up," he said. "Deborah's on the warpath with some petition about your farm being a nuisance. I told her I wasn't interested in signing and that my kids love visiting your piglets. She didn't take it well." Other neighbors gave us similar calls. While Deborah did manage to get a few signatures, it wasn't nearly the unanimous condemnation she was hoping for. The petition fizzled out, but Deborah still wasn't ready to admit defeat. She began a campaign of smaller harassments, calling county officials with spurious complaints about everything from water runoff to fence heights, taking photos of our property from the road, and even following delivery trucks to our farm to complain to the drivers about using her road. It was annoying, but we tried to ignore it as best we could while documenting everything just in case. Our pigs, meanwhile, continued to grow and thrive, blissfully unaware of being at the center of a neighborhood drama. Around this time, I had an interesting conversation with one of the older residents in the area, Mr. Jenkins, who'd lived on his farm for over 40 years. He mentioned that the plot where Deborah's house now stood used to be part of a larger pig farm back in the 1970s. Old Man Winters had nearly 100 hogs on that land, he told me. That was before the big operations took over and small pig farmers couldn't make a living anymore. Had to sell off parcels of his land bit by bit. Bet there's still plenty of nutrients in that soil from all those pigs. This little piece of historical information gave me an idea. Not revenge exactly, but an opportunity for some malicious compliance and perhaps a little justice. Our county has strong right-to-farm laws, but it also has regulations about property use and zoning. When Deborah's luxury development was built, the developer had to get the land rezoned from agricultural to residential. But what if not all the necessary steps had been followed correctly? I spent an afternoon at the county records office digging through paperwork and permit applications for the development. What I found was interesting. While the overall development had been properly rezoned, there were discrepancies in the environmental impact statements, particularly regarding the history of the land and potential soil remediation requirements for former livestock areas. In simpler terms, the developer should have conducted specific soil tests and potential remediation on Deborah's lot because of its history as a pig farm, and there was no record that they had done so. This wasn't just a paperwork oversight. It could potentially mean that her house was built on land that hadn't been properly prepared for residential use. I took my findings to the county environmental office. The official there, Miss Patterson, reviewed the documents with interest. "This is concerning," she admitted. "The developer should have disclosed the prior agricultural use and done appropriate testing. We'll need to investigate this." I didn't tell Deborah about any of this. I didn't need to. 2 weeks later, she received an official visit from Miss Patterson and a soil testing crew. They explained that her property required inspection due to its history as a pig farming operation and potential soil contamination concerns. I wasn't there to witness it, but according to Martin, who lived across the street from Deborah, her reaction was priceless. Apparently, the idea that her pristine luxury home was sitting on old pig land sent her into a complete meltdown. The irony of her complaining about our few pigs while living on a former pig farm was lost on no one except perhaps Deborah herself. The soil testing found nothing dangerous, but it did require Deborah to have additional inspections and paperwork, all at her expense. More importantly, it forced the developer to disclose this history to all the residents in the development, many of whom were not pleased to learn this information had been withheld from them during the sales process. Several homeowners, including Deborah, filed complaints against the developer. The resulting legal tangle kept Deborah far too busy to continue her campaign against our farm. The developer, eager to make the problem go away, offered concessions to the affected homeowners, including installing enhanced soundproofing and odor mitigation landscaping, which, ironically, would help buffer any actual farm noises or smells much better than Deborah's previous complaints had. As for our pigs, they grew up healthy and happy. Petunia and Penny eventually had their own litters of piglets, some of which we sold to other small farmers in the area. We kept our operations small and sustainable, just as we'd always planned. The most satisfying part of the whole saga came about 3 months after the soil testing incident. I was working near our front fence when a car pulled up. Not Deborah's Lexus, but a modest sedan. A middle-aged couple got out and introduced themselves as potential buyers for Deborah's house, which had recently been listed for sale. "We're considering making an offer," the husband explained, "but we wanted to talk to the neighbors first, especially since we understand there's a working farm next door." "We actually think that's a feature, not a problem," his wife added. "We grew up in farming communities and miss that connection to the land. Our grandkids would love seeing the animals when they visit." I gave them an honest overview of our farm operations and the surrounding community. They seemed genuinely interested and appreciative of the information. "One last question," the husband said. "The current owner mentioned something about troublesome pigs. Are they dangerous or something?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Would you like to meet them and judge for yourself?" I took them back to see our pig enclosure where Percy, Petunia, and Penny were contentedly rooting around in the dirt. The couple's faces lit up and they spent nearly half an hour asking questions about the pigs and our other animals. Before they left, the wife smiled and said, "I think we're definitely making an offer on that house, and if we get it, we'll be over to buy eggs regularly." 2 weeks later, they did buy Deborah's house, and they've been wonderful neighbors ever since. Their grandchildren visit frequently and always beg to come see our animals. We've never once received a noise complaint from them, even when we expanded our pig operation the following year. As for Deborah, we heard she moved to a strictly regulated gated community in the suburbs, one with an extensive HOA rulebook and absolutely no livestock allowed. I imagine she's much happier there, though I sometimes wonder if she's found something new to complain about. For our part, we've continued to live the farm life we love, now with peaceful neighbors who appreciate what we do. Our pigs still make noise at feeding time, our roosters still crow at dawn, and our tractors still occasionally run at odd hours during planting and harvest seasons. That's just part of life in the country. Some people get it and some people don't. But one thing I've learned through all of this: pigs are much easier to reason with than some humans. Update. It's been almost 2 years since Deborah left, and life on our little farm has been peaceful and productive. Remember those soil tests the county had to do? Well, it turned out the developer had skipped several other required environmental assessments and permits throughout the entire luxury country estate's development. A class action lawsuit was filed by most of the homeowners, resulting in a substantial settlement that covered property devaluation and remediation costs. Several homeowners used their settlement money to install amazing soundproofing and professional landscaping that creates natural sound and odor barriers. Not that our modest operation really needed it, but it's nice for everyone involved. The couple who bought Deborah's house became good friends of ours. Their grandkids are now regular helpers during lambing season. Yes, we added sheep last year, and they've even started a small garden of their own with our guidance. Most surprisingly, we received a letter from Deborah about 6 months ago. It contained a brief but seemingly sincere apology for her behavior, explaining that she'd been going through a difficult divorce during her time here and had misdirected her stress and anger. She even included a gift card to a farm supply store. I'm not sure I completely buy her explanation, but I appreciate the gesture nonetheless. Officer Miller still stops by occasionally, not for complaints, but to buy bacon from our small processing operation. The department apparently holds monthly pancake breakfasts, and he claims ours is the best damn bacon in the county. He always asks about those dangerous pigs with a wink. Our pig family has grown, and we've become known for our heritage breeding program. Farmers from 3 counties now come to us for Gloucestershire Old Spots breeding stock. We even won a ribbon at the county fair last summer. Sometimes when I'm out working and hear our pigs oinking and grunting happily in their spacious enclosure, I smile thinking about Deborah and her coyote recordings. Life has a funny way of sorting itself out if you just stay true to your principles and let people reveal their true nature through their actions. In the end, our little farm didn't just survive one entitled neighbors campaign against it, it thrived. The next one is a malicious compliances story. Some among you may remember George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind shtick. If you were in school in Connecticut, that meant the Connecticut Mastery Tests. Standardized testing consisting of multiple choice and short answer questions. They sucked. Everyone hated them. They were designed to test the teachers more than the students, but that meant the teachers would teach to the test for a third of the year. It was a massive waste of time that didn't even count toward the student's grade. I, having ADD and anxiety issues, sucked at it, and I would get so stressed that I'd be miserable for weeks up to and during the test. I was in the 6th or 7th grade, honestly not sure, when my brother mentioned something interesting. He's older than me, and usually finished his test early, so while waiting for the test period to finish, he saw a box on the back of the test that said, "I refuse to take this test," followed by a signature line. My mother hated these tests too, so she said he should sign it and see what happens. I'm not sure they realized I was in the room. My brother chickened out, but when the test started, I calmly waded through the instructions they always gave. Fill the bubble in completely, number 2 pencils only, and so on. Then, while the other students started the test, I flipped mine over, signed the refusal space, and raised my hand. I'll never forget the blood draining from my teacher's face when she saw it. They sent me to the principal and my mother was called in. She thought it could end up being some kind of legal battle, but she was willing to back me up. In the end, some higher-level bearcat said it was fine and I didn't have to take it, but I can't encourage other students to do the same. My brother, of course, got out of it too, and we spent those weeks hanging out in the library until testing was over. I never did tell other students to sign the line, but my mother told every parent she knew, and not long after the tests were done. Maybe it was inevitable, but I like to think I had some influence in shutting that shit show down. The next one is an entitled people story. I work for a solid waste company that collects curbside garbage, recycling, and compost, and I have been there for a year. I never realized how serious some customers take their curbside collections before working at this company. Long post, and it is necessary for background. So last week, our area had a severe windstorm that knocked out power lines, downed trees, downed active power lines, and disrupted power to over 100,000 residents. Our office had generators, so we were able to conduct business, and our drivers did the best they could. Many streets were closed because of downed power lines or downed trees. Most of the residents were without power for 2 days. Our drivers tried the best they could to collect trash and recycle bins and are still trying to catch up on those streets that were closed. So, today, I get a call from an irate customer that we did not collect his trash this week. In looking at the account, the driver did not collect because there was a downed wire blocking access. The driver provided a photo showing a downed wire across a very narrow dirt driveway with large trees on either side. The wire went at an angle, looked like it was 3 off the ground at one side and maybe 10, 12 on the other side. I explained to the customer that we could not safely access his home, and he told me, 1. He drove his 13.6 tall RV back and forth with no problem. Why is he driving his RV back and forth? 2. A propane truck had no problem accessing the driveway. 3. Did we report the issue to the electric company? Not our responsibility. 4. I asked him if he reported the downed wire to the electric company, and he stated that he had it was not live and wasn't their wire. Nobody knew whose wire this was. 5. I told him our drivers could not take the risk of driving a large-bodied truck, 33 feet long, 8 feet wide, 13 feet tall, through a downed wire as there were safety and liability issues. I said our operations manager would do a site check to determine if the site and access were safe. But if the downed line does not belong to the electric company, we still cannot resume services until we determine the line is out of the way, who the line belongs to, and is also safe to proceed. He went ballistic, accused our company of incompetence, going to report us to the BBB, tell everyone on social media how horrid we are, and the list goes on. All over a missed garbage bin collection because a massive storm downed power lines, over 100,000 households lost power, many streets were closed, but our drivers were still out there doing their best. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you